Hi gang, the Joy of Football podcast is getting into the 2025-26 season today, starting with
the Premier Preview, Part 1, Arsenal, Aston Villa, Bournemouth, Brentford and Brighton.
Then we have a little break with Martin Tyler's letter from the Gantry, and he's been looking at quite a few of the Premier League under-21s teams.
And then we have the Premier Preview Part 2. As you can guess, we're going in alphabetical order. Burnley, Chelsea, Crystal Palace, Everton and Fulham.
And then we have one of our feedback sections in which you lot get your say. Don't forget, if you want to get more involved, there's a Patreon. Please subscribe to us because it helps. And lots of you have been. Thank you. And don't forget as well, you can read us on substack.com where we're also The Joy of Football. Let's go. The Joy of Football podcast. With me, Neil Barnett.
And with me, Martin Tyler.
Looks for Shane! Rooney! Aguero!
The Joy of Football. Hello, the Joy of Football podcast with Martin Tyler, the greatest commentator in the world, and me, Neil Barnett. We've got to rush through to get to our Premier League previews today. But before we do, a special welcome to any ChrisMD watchers, listeners who are joining us. And that is, Martin, because...
Well, I helped out a tiny bit on Chris's latest epic movie on YouTube and other platforms, I'm sure, as well. It was done a few weeks ago. And I sat in a field somewhere near the North Circular and commentated on some skills that
for people abroad or outside London, the North Circular is the horrible road that goes around the north of London.
Yeah, it's always full of traffic, and we managed to get the words out without the car noise being too intrusive. It was a pleasure to work with Chris, a pleasure to work with his team. And they've turned it into a very good edit. My part was the moment I left the North Circular, I left it to them. But they looked after me very well, both on the day and in the edit as well.
Right, brilliant. Hope everyone enjoyed it. Let's move on. And we start with the Premier Preview, Part 1. 5 clubs in Part 1, because there are 4 parts. Arsenal.
We're doing this in alphabetical order, we should stress as well, which I think at this time is the best way to do it.
Okay, Arsenal, let's just look at last season.
Yeah.
Second, although considered a failure because they were 10 points behind Liverpool, scored 17 fewer goals, conceded 7 fewer, but they were 15 points fewer this season, just finished, than the previous season, Arsenal. Champions League semi-finalists for the first time since 2008-09. FA Cup third round. Lost at home to Manchester United on penalties. That must have been hard going. Carabao Cup semi-finalists. Lost 2-0 home and away to Newcastle, who of course went on to win it. And departures this summer include... Tierney released, Tavares to Lazio for £6.5 million, Jorginho released, Marquinhos £2.5 million to Cruzeiro, loans, Neto and Sterling left as well. They were on loan last season, of course, goalkeeper Neto. Recruitments include Viktor Gyökeres, do you know the pronunciation for me? Gyökeres from Sporting for 74 million euros. Noni Madueke from Chelsea for 48.5 million pounds. Martin Zubamendi from Real Sociedad for 65 million euros. Christian Norgard from Brentford for 9 million pounds. Christian Mosquera from Valencia for 15 million euros. And Kepa Arrizabalaga from Chelsea for 5 million pounds. Thank you, Arsenal.
Good business, I think. Good business. All areas of the team covered. The desire for a proper striker, but it'll be very interesting. Viktor Gyökeres had played in England before, of course, with Brighton, where he didn't really make much of an impression. He was very young. And then he went to Coventry, where he started to show what he's capable of, but it's been upwards and onwards since then around Europe. He's come from Portugal. He's a Swedish international. He's a top top goal record, and is he the missing link for Arsenal? Many will think it is, but there are other changes. And Zubimendi in midfield, which player who came on for Rodrigo in that Euro final. Not for Rodri, rather. Well, he's got Rodrigo on his shirt, but we know him as Rodri. And it looked as though that would be bad news for Spain. He was excellent. So I think they've done well to get him. You're a big fan of Madueke. You spoke about it in the last podcast. I think he's a very exciting player, and certainly I do think he's better on the right, where of course Saka.
I don't. I think he thinks he's better on the right. Yeah. I love him on the left.
Which is where he's going to get in,
because he's left-footed and he makes the pitch wider because he goes outside. I think one of the issues with players going in from the wing is that they make the pitch narrower. Unless they've got a fullback bombing down outside them every single time they do it. And
they make the pitch narrow and smash it into the far corner.
Well, if you're Saka, that's fine. That's fine. But if you're Noni Madueke, you're not really going to do that. But the Noni talent is just to get the ball in the penalty area, get himself and the ball into the penalty area, and then things happen. My interest is Declan Rice is clearly, undisputedly, England's number one holding midfielder, and he will no longer be Arsenal's holding midfielder at all, because they've not only got Zubimendi, they've got Norgard as well, who plays that role. So he's going to be a number 8, which is what Havertz will have to compete for, as well as centre forward, if Gyökeres is going to be centre forward.
Gyökeres. No G. It's Swedish. The silent G. So Göteborg is Gothenburg.
Gyökeres.
In Sweden. Gyökeres, yeah.
Gyökeres, right. Yeah. If he's going to be centre forward, Havertz is going to have to compete for that as well. And
well, that's not a problem, is it?
No, not for Arsenal.
No. I think the big issue is, of course, Mikel Arteta. How many years is he going to go when this label of, you have won trophies, but right at the start, and you come close, keep coming close. Are people going to go, we want somebody who can make that? It's only a little gap to win, but it's a very, very hard gap to bridge. And I'm in the pro Arteta camp. I think he's done an amazing job. I think at times he could conduct himself a little bit better on the touchline, but I've been in dugouts admittedly in non-league football, and it is a pressure cooker, I promise you. So
what would be a good season for Arsenal in your books?
To improve on last season. That's only ever the judgment that I would put on any club. Now, in terms of doing better than last season, obviously, and the season before, that's getting to hold up the Premier League trophy. They'll certainly have a shout. I thought they did really well in the Champions League. That's probably the highlight of what happened last season. They looked a really good Champions League.
I think that's been too downgraded, what they did in the Champions League, and I don't think it was such an awful season as people made out when they got to the semi-finals for the first time and so on. I think a good season for Arsenal would be to compete right to the end for either the Premier League or the Champions League, and to win a trophy.
Yeah, I mean,
if they won the FA Cup or the League Cup and competed, they don't have to win one of the two big ones.
When you come out of Man United home or away in the third round of the FA Cup, a big name with the two most successful clubs in FA Cup history, one of them's going to go out, and by the narrowest of margins, it was Arsenal who went out. So the Carabao Cup, I thought they were disappointing. I do think they all credit to Newcastle, and we'll come on to them in a later edition. But what I would say is that those games where really that should have been a Wembley appearance for them, and then it would have been Arsenal-Liverpool, obviously, which would have, who knows. So I think that to me was the big disappointment, and not scoring as many goals. Of course, that's always bad for the fans, and I bow to no one in my love for goal scoring. I think it's the essence of why we love the game. So, but they're in the mix. Are they going to win it? I'm not a predictor. So
have you commentated on Gyökeres much?
Only in the Champions League last season. Yeah.
And?
Yeah, I mean, give him a chance. He's got that single-mindedness, strong, but he's now got to really prove himself at a big club, big money, and I wish him well. I think he will be a good addition to the Premier League. I just don't know enough about why he didn't quite make it at an earlier age, and he's come quite talk about the North Circular. He's come round the ring road to get to where he is now. So,
right, we move on to Aston Villa. Last season, 6 behind Newcastle and a Champions League place, only on goal difference, and just 2 points fewer than the previous season, even though they were in the Champions League, of course. Champions League quarter-finalists in their first campaign since 82-83, when they were also quarter-finalists, lost to PSG 3-1 away, but beat them 3-2 at home in a fabulous game. FA Cup semi-finalists lost 3-0 to Crystal Palace. Carabao Cup fourth round, lost 2-1 at home to Crystal Palace. Departures include backup goalkeeper Olsen released, defender House released, Coutinho finally undisclosed fee to Vasco da Gama, and on loan Rashford, of course. Recruits include 2 teenage defenders, including 1 Turkish cap Yasin Özkan from Kasimpasa, who's already gone on loan to Anderlecht, 19-year-old forward Zepaqueno Redmond, who scored 2 against England under-19s as Netherlands went on to win the Euros, and a backup goalkeeper. Now, last summer, Villa really recruited big-time young players in order to prepare for the Champions League. So I get that they haven't really recruited this summer.
But they recruited in January, didn't they? I mean, that was getting Rashford and Asensio in January was wonderful business, really, and inspired that burst that they were pretty unlucky not to get through to the semi-final. And when you think what PSG ended up doing, that tells you they're in very good company.
And Donnarumma was magnificent that night at Villa.
I did their last game when they failed to get the Champions League spot, and they lost at Manchester United on the last day of the season. And Emi Martinez got sent off.
Rightly so.
Oh yeah, right. There's no disputing that. But when he went off, there was a feeling, because there'd been a lot of speculation around leading up to that game, that would be the end of him at Aston Villa,
because he was meant to want club trophies.
Yeah, he was somebody who seemed to run his course at the club, and brilliant goalkeeper that he has been for Villa. But he's still there as we speak, so maybe that's gone away, and that would be great news for Villa if they keep him. It take a bit of replacing. So. But it looks to me like the policy this window has been dictated by the
PSR.
financial issues, and that was very much, there was some transfers that seemed to suit clubs that were facing this problem this time last year, and we haven't seen too much of that. I'm sure they're looking to do some more business, but there may be restrictions on that. But a really great season, and a wonderful club, a great ground to work out. It's the sense of history when you arrive at Villa Park is enormous, and they've had a couple of really good seasons in a row under Unai Emery, who remains we talk about dugout behaviours, he remains one of the most theatrical managers in that respect.
Yeah.
So.
And with the least balletic movement of any manager. He is, of course, the king of the Europa League, Unai Emery, and they are in the Europa League. So I would think that they must have their eyes set on that. Last time Chelsea were in the Europa League, 2018-19, from the beginning, I went to every game before the final, home and away. And the first out-and-out Premier League quality side Chelsea faced was in the semi-final against Eintracht Frankfurt. In the quarterfinals, Slavia Prague might have gotten the Premier League for a couple of seasons, like Huddersfield did. But they wouldn't have survived, like Huddersfield didn't. I believe that Villa can go through most of the Europa League with a shadow squad and concentrate on the Premier League this season. And when you look at what they did last season when they were in the Champions League and only missed out on goal difference from the Champions League this season, I think they can have a good season.
Well, the Europa League was contested between two teams in the lower half of the Premier League, the final. So, it doesn't say that much. Of course, we know that there's an asterisk about that for both clubs, really. They probably had the talent not to be where they finished in the Premier League, but the Premier League doesn't lie. But they got to the final, and it was a gritty final, wasn't it? Which
awful game.
Yeah, I still go along with one of the best sayings ever, that neither team deserved to win, but Spurs didn't deserve to lose.
Yeah.
I thought that absolutely summed it up.
I mean, for Villa, to me, a good season this season would be qualify for the Champions League and win a trophy, because they haven't won a trophy since 1995.
But will they have the recruitment available in the weeks before the window closes to strengthen the hand, having lost more than they've brought in?
But they've kept their best players.
Well, they haven't kept Asensio or Rashford.
No, they were on loan, but I don't think
they fired up the competition for places, and they certainly. And they've been saying Ollie Watkins remains obviously has been a wonderful player for Aston Villa, and he still gets mentioned when somebody like say Newcastle, if they lose Isak, that they will go for Ollie Watkins. It wasn't quite clear when it was mentioned, was it in the winter transfer window, that he might be available then with Arsenal sniffing around for him. So there's something a little bit unsettling. If I was a Villa fan, I think I'd like to know a bit more about that and what Ollie thinks himself. He's a very bright young man with a great appreciation of how his game has developed, and from being a winger really to start with, into using wing skills through the middle. So I think that's one to keep an eye on as well.
Bournemouth. Bournemouth finished 9th last season, equal highest ever finish with 2016-17. They got 56 points, which is their record by 8 points. And only Liverpool and Brighton scored more away goals. That's phenomenal. In the FA Cup, they reached the quarterfinals, but lost at home to Manchester City. And in the Carabao Cup, went out in the second round, losing at West Ham to an 88th minute Jared Bowen goal. Now, this is their problem. Departures include on loan Kepa and Travers, goalkeepers, £4 million to Everton. Right back Aaron's on loan to Rangers. He's never settled there. Huijsen, £50 million to Real Madrid. Huijsen. £50 million to Real Madrid. Kerkez, £40 million to Liverpool. Rothwell, undisclosed fee to Rangers. And Anthony was on loan last season to Burnley, undisclosed fee to Burnley. Recruits include goalkeeper Georgi Petrovic from Chelsea for £25 million. Adrian Truffert, left back, €13 million from Rennes. Truffert. I don't know.
He's obviously for Kerkez. That
no centre back.
Well, again, it does look as though there are issues, or maybe they've got players lined up ready to come in. They've been away in America, and they've done okay.
They got slaughtered 4-1 by Manchester United. And
they beat Everton, quite a shadow Everton squad there. We'll come on to them. And Huijsen really was, a startling development. Yeah, to go.
But his fellow centre-back's in demand as well, isn't he? The other centre-back, whose name escapes me.
Zabani, yeah.
There are a lot of clubs looking at him.
Ukrainian international, yeah. But that's the way it is. This has not changed. That the bigger fish in the top division of English football eat the little fish.
Why do you think they scored so many away goals last season?
They're very fit. Very, very rapid on the counter-attack. Obviously, Kluivert had a great season.
Semenyo.
Yeah, Semenyo, we've lauded about in this podcast. And Evan Nielsen, all fitted into that fit, pacey, I mean, remember the game at Everton when they scored 2-0 down, they scored 3 in added time virtually to win that game.
And the great story of David Brooks, who seems to be coming back to real Premier League fitness after his cancer.
Yeah, no, that's always a heartwarming sight to see him back in a Premier League setup as well. So it'll be interesting. I mean, they worked so hard to get to ninth and get those points. To do it again, you always think maybe you need an injection to a special player or just something that you can nail on right at the beginning rather than, well, here we go again. It's a game, we've had 38 games last year. This is effectively the 39th. Can we keep doing it? I can't see them being in serious trouble, but the fans will say, well, we'd rather have had Huijsen and Kerkez still there. Kerkez was just up and down.
We talked about him a year and a half ago, Kerkez.
Yeah. So good judgment by the teams that have... I saw Huijsen play for Real Madrid, actually, in the Club World Cup. So he's just there, he seems to take everything in his stride. Very interesting background with coming from the Netherlands initially and then growing up in Spain and then had to get Spanish citizenship, made his debut for Spain against the Netherlands, got booed. It was in the Netherlands. So, but just takes it in his stride and he'll be around for, obviously given fitness forever and a day. I think he's still very young.
I think a good season for Bournemouth will be not getting sucked into the relegation battle. Because you can't lose your 2 best young players for a lot of money and not expect to struggle. Mm-hmm. But I think if they don't get sucked into that relegation battle, nobody should then say, "Oh, they're disappointing after the previous season."
One thing we must actually stress in this preview is that the teams that have kept some players, we'll come on to Crystal Palace, who of course lost Elise a year ago, and then all the talk about
and Zaha the year before that.
And look like they might be in a situation where they might have to sell, but they've got greater income despite the European difficulties. They are FA Cup winners. They are in Europe. And it seems not in the allotted competition initially, but hopefully they'll be able to hang. Mark Gay's always being mentioned again as the target, quite rightly. So you sell your best players at your peril, but if it's at a major profit, it's understandable.
Brentford, who came in the top half of the table, 10th, and had this extraordinary record. They won 7 and drew 1 of their first 8 home games, and then won 2, drew 3, and lost 6 of their last 11. They lost 8 and drew 2 of their first 10 away games, and then won 7, drew 2 of their remaining 9. I mean, it was just 2 completely different seasons. In the FA Cup, they went out in the 3rd round at home to Plymouth, losing 1-0.
They then knocked out Liverpool.
Yeah. And in the Carabao Cup, they reached the 5th round and lost 3-1 at Newcastle. Well, Newcastle went on to be winners. Now, they have been absolutely robbed this summer, although well paid for it. Tottenham paid £10 million to take Thomas Frank as a manager. Goalkeeper Flecken went for £8.4 million to buy Leverkusen. Ben Mee was released. Norgard, we've said, went for £9 million to Arsenal. And of course, Mbuemo went for £71 million to Manchester United. Recruits include manager Keith Andrews is promoted from set-piece coach. Now, come on, give me his first name. Kwame Kelleher from Liverpool to keep goal for £12.5 million in place of Flecken. Michael Coyote, a €15.5 million fullback from Fiorentina.
He was on loan last season, and I picked him out as one of our young players. He was brilliant when I saw him. So he's a really good recruit, and they've turned the loan into a full deal. I'm not at all surprised.
Jordan Henderson free from Ajax, and Tony Milambo, a Dutch under-21s attacking midfielder, for €18.5 million from Feyenoord, Brentford.
Well, I mean, it's one of those upheavals that clubs never want to go through. But they did really well to hang on to Thomas Frank for as long as they did. Outstanding coach, outstanding man manager, outstanding bloke, to be honest with you, if you've ever been privileged to spend some time in his company. Has a great sense of perspective, but also a great work ethic, and he knows the style of football that he wants to play. We'll obviously come on to where he's gone to later in our previews, but Norgard has been exceptional as a leader figure, as a goal scorer from midfield, set pieces. That'll be something that Arsenal will profit from, I'm sure. And Brian Bournemouth, who's still very young, he came, and remember he was in the side that got promoted for Brentford, and he's certainly earned his move in terms of what he's done for Brentford. Superb finisher, very level-headed, great partnership with Wissa, who's still there, but again
wants to go.
It looks
and
like
Newcastle are looking at him.
Yeah, I mean, you can see a sort of domino effect if Isak does go. I do wish Keith Andrews every success. He's a really good guy,
and he's got as his assistant Damien Duff.
Yes,
the great Damien Duff.
A very Irish setup now, with Keller in goal as well, and I mean it's a massive challenge to go from.
Can I just ask? Are you surprised that Tottenham went for Thomas Frank, who came 10th but hasn't won anything in England, rather than Oliver Glasner, who in his first full season in charge of Crystal Palace won the FA Cup?
No, because, I mean, Crystal Palace, was it the 14th or 15th consecutive season in the top flight? Brentford, they were until the last, what was it, 4 now? Then 1947 or something, 1948. So
47 they got relegated.
Yeah, well, Brentford to me, I mean,
it's top,
being in the Premier League is winning a trophy, and keeping them in the Premier League is a smashing trophy. A wonderful, and he's done that, got them there, kept them there, and certainly deserves a move. And it'll be very interesting to see how he adapts, or whether the kind of, I mean, Brentford, brilliant at set pieces. Even before Keith Andrews came, they were. I've mentioned this before. They scored against Arsenal in the very first game.
Chelsea nicked a set piece coach, or nicked, paid for.
They've always relied under Thomas Frank on set pieces, and you have to if your resources are a bit limited. Very important part.
What will be a good season for Brentford?
Staying up.
I want more. Not getting sucked into the relegation battle.
Well, for Keith, sometimes you have a flying start, and those points early in the seasons become so crucial when you come to the end of it. But he's certainly got the personality and the football now. He was a good player, and he's worked his way very quickly into a position of this seniority, really. And Jordan Henderson, I'm sure, will help. And he's got that winning mentality as well. So it'll be interesting. He's playing to get in the England World Cup squad.
Right.
So
all of a sudden,
he's got a real incentive to do well. And I'm sure that of all players reaching that kind of age, he's one of the least likely to suffer from it, because he's always been superbly fit. And I would expect that to be shining through Brentford's performances.
Last team in this first segment then, Brighton, 8th last season, 61 points, only one fewer than in 22-23 when they qualified for Europe for the first time, in 6th place. It's very clear this last season just gone that teams are getting more points lower down the division than they used to, because teams at the bottom are getting fewer because they've been garbage.
I know exactly what you mean. There are more points available if the team's at the bottom, and they were very low, the bottom 3.
Brighton reached the quarterfinals of the FA Cup and lost on penalties at home to Nottingham Forest. You were there.
I did that game.
In the Carabao Cup, they lost at home to Liverpool in the 3rd round. Departures this summer include Estupiñán, the left-back, to Milan for £17.5 million, Barco to Strasbourg for £10 million, and Dingra, who I liked, to Sunderland for £21 million, João Pedro to Chelsea for £60 million, and Evan Ferguson on loan to Roma. Recruits include Maxim de Cooper, Kuiper, thank you, €20 million left back from Club Brugge. Experienced centre-back, left-back, Olivier Boscagli.
Boscagli, I would guess.
From PSV Eindhoven, he came on a free. Tom Watson, £10 million winger from Sunderland, who scored the Championship playoff
having
winner.
Already signed for Brighton.
Yeah.
It was amazing story that.
And Charalampos Kostulas, €34.5 million, Greece under-21s forward from Olympiacos.
Well, never doubt Brighton. That's all I would say. I mean, they've moved players out, and they do recognise that there's a price for everybody. I like you. I liked Adingra, but
he lost his place.
He did. Yeah, and João Pedro was actually didn't.
He lost his place.
He was injured as well, and that contributed to losing his place. But he's already won a trophy with Chelsea, and the season hasn't started. I mean, I'm still baffled by that. That's one law I would have not allowed at the club World Cup. But there you go. The semi-final and final, time to arrive, isn't it? Pick up your medal and move to somewhere in southwest London.
Yeah. FIFA never used to make rules for marketing reasons. They made rules for football reasons, but now that's gone.
That was a football reason that they believed, to make sure the players weren't over, that you could strengthen your squad.
Nonsense.
Yeah, there are good thoughts about it. De Kuyper, I mentioned the other week, he did well for Club Brugge in the Champions League. He's an aggressive left back, and he got a goal. And Leon Bailey was castigated by Unai Emery for not tracking him, and in fact he left him out for quite a while after that. And he broke forward from left back and unattended by Villa in the game in Belgium and scored. The others have come with the reputation that we know. We saw Tom Watson, not the golfer. That's probably showing my age a bit. Tom Watson, now a footballer, 10 million winger from Sunderland, who has a little mark on football history already. It'll be interesting when Brighton plays Sunderland. I'm sure we want to be involved in that one. And it's I always put Brentford and Brighton, they're together alphabetically, but I put them together in terms of the business model with Mr. Benham and Mr. Bloom, who used to be the best of friends and perhaps aren't so now, but they've gone their separate ways to great success. And so I'd be surprised if Brighton have any problems. I just fear that the inexperience of Brentford and the loss of, particularly if Johan Wissa goes, that I think that could be very difficult to deal with. You've got to get your goals, haven't you? And they scored plenty of them with Mbeumo and Wissa. So and Brighton just got to learn a new set of names when we commentate on them. Really, that's quite normal. I'm quite used to that.
Yeah,
good Gantry at Brighton as well. Happy to go there.
Yeah, Brighton. A couple of years ago, 3 years ago, 2 years ago, I can't remember now, which I saw Brentford a couple of times in pre-season in the States. And I thought they could go down that year. I'd forgotten who they sold, but they were just such a mess. And of course they didn't, and then they weren't challenged at all by relegation. And Brighton really haven't been challenged by relegation for years now. I mean, they are a well-established Premier League.
They made
club
that commitment, I think. When Chris Huijsen did a great job keeping them in the Premier League, but the football was difficult for.
It was backs to the wall.
Yeah, it was backs to the wall, and he fought that fight really well. But they made that decision, I think, to say, well, we've got to offer more than that. And it costs money, but they've been able to do it.
I think a good season for Brighton, and this is challenging, I accept, but a good season for Brighton is getting back into Europe for a second time.
No, I think that's a fair target.
Yeah. Okay.
We should mention Huijsen as well, who's come onto the scene. It's not just players that they bring in.
Yeah.
Fabian Huijsen has really hit the ground running, hasn't he? And
I mean, the youngest manager ever, I think, in the Premier League, full-time manager, and having got St. Pauli promoted to the Bundesliga for the first time in about 20 years.
A little bit calmer than De Zerbi, maybe.
But De Zerbi got in the Champions League with Marseille.
And De Zerbi has brought a lot to Brighton as well. They're very good. I mean, that's I think Brentford are good at that as well. So that's why Keith Andrews will have. It's not just a. He's here, let's give him the job. They will have gone through that with a fine-tooth comb.
Right, 5 more clubs to come in a moment. And after that as well, we've got feedback with more from you. But right now it is Martin Tyler's letter from the Gantry.
Letter from the Gantry.
So many sheets of paper here today, Neil. Thank you. With so many Premier League teams basing their pre-season preparations in other continents, let alone other countries, it's been left to the top-flight under-21 outfits and development squads to give an elite edge to the warm-up fixtures in England. In the space of 8 days, I saw these specified age groups belonging to Spurs, Fulham and Bournemouth, and though their results were mixed against National League first-teamers, only Fulham won, it was an impressive show of how well our football industry is producing young talent. In rightly celebrating the achievements of the Lionesses, we shouldn't forget that there's been another back-to-back European success this summer, that of the England under-21 squad under the guidance of Lee Carsley. The successful group 2 years ago included Levi Colwill, Taylor Harwood-Bellis, Morgan Gibbs-White, Emil Smith-Rowe, Anthony Gordon, Curtis Jones, Cole Palmer, Angel Gomez, Noni Madueke and Jared Branthwaite, all now full internationals. You sense that James Trafford, who didn't concede a goal in that entire tournament and saved a penalty in the final, will not be far behind. He's already been in a senior squad and, of course, recently rejoined Manchester City. I wrote recently of the depth of talent in Germany's under-21 squad when they beat England 4-0 in the 2009 European final. In July, I met a member of that ultra-gifted group, Benedikt Hervedez, who was actually working as a television reporter at the Wimbledon Tennis Championships. He reminded me that he was one of 6 from that squad that won the World Cup 5 years later in Brazil. It's another good omen for the current England setup. Of this summer's winners, Tino Livramento has already won a full cap and was one of 8 starters in the final to have played a significant number of minutes in the Premier League in their short careers to date. But what of those who I've seen in these recent pre-season games, deemed not ready at first-team level and left behind from the foreign trips? Spurs went off to the Far East with a 29-man squad for their Premier League and Champions League preparations. Fulham's first-team contenders have been in Portugal. Bournemouth have been taking part in the Premier League Summer Series in the USA, where opportunity did knock for a 20-year-old who had come through their academy, Daniel Adu Ajay. He scored in a 3-0 win over Everton in New Jersey. Adu Ajay has had EFL loan spells with Leyton Orient and Carlisle, which is a pointer to the way forward for those ambitious and talented youngsters still trying to get a foot on the football ladder. There are very few restrictions in what is otherwise a complicated loan system for players at the under-21 stage. There can be a certain reluctance for some to step down for a spell on loan at a lower level. It takes them out of their comfort zone. But those who take that chance rarely regret it. Playing in someone's first team as young as possible is really the pathway to a professional career. The Premier League development system has had its critics. The football has been too sanitised. The education is all about technique rather than physique. Results don't matter. Match know-how and the importance of winning is not properly emphasised. Well, I believe those issues have been more widely addressed, and we may well be flooding the market with young talent. As an example, I mentioned the 3 Fulham goal scorers in the game I saw. Jayden Kwasi, Ollie Sanderson, and Terrell Works. Now there's a name for the commentators, if, as widely expected, he makes the grade. All outstanding on that particular evening. Sanderson, quite a conventional number 9 too, has already scored goals on loan to League Two clubs. What is increasingly shining through is that there is a place in new school for elements of old school. Development coaches like Wayne Burnett at Spurs and Warren Joyce at Nottingham Forest know the game from top to bottom. It seems to me that the elite development squads, the EDS, now fully understand the DNA of successful footballers, and the English game will be even better for this in years to come. Finding room in the mainstream system for all those who graduate might now be the problem which needs addressing, and that surely is a fault on the right side.
I do find under-21s club football very hard to watch now.
Yeah, but it's when they're playing against each other.
Yeah, but I do think the major Premier League academies now, the under-21s take part in the FA Trophy against the third and fourth tier teams. And the two interesting things out of that is just what a culture shock it is for them to play against men, and that none of them have ever won the trophy. It's still been won
and
by
they're in
teams.
the second edition of it, really under current format, the National Cup, which is the under 21s play the National League teams. Not all the National League teams have actually stepped up to be involved in this. But it does that manliness. But what I was trying to get across in the letter was that there is more manliness about it now.
Yes, I agree totally.
And it's not just the nice passing footballers, and there is more purpose. And I do hope, well, of course, a lot of them now, not a lot of them, but there is a pathway through other countries. They're leaving English football to find their opportunities overseas, following the Bellingham twice route, and I think that also it shows if we can't take them all on board here, and there are reasons why, because Morecambe, if a club can't afford to run itself, how can the players have opportunities to play? So there are financial issues lower down the pyramid, really, which I think in the end would be something that we should really factor in as to when you wouldn't want to loan a club to loan a player to a club who's in difficulties, would you? They wouldn't be able. I mean, the Premier League teams usually pay the wages when you go out on loan.
Yeah, I mean the thing is, you can loan. The rules are really interesting, and they haven't been discussed enough. FIFA have tried to stop stockpiling of players, so you can only loan 6 players abroad now, internationally, with and most leagues have a limit of how many you can take from one club.
Chelsea have loaned
3 players to Strasbourg and can't loan any more, but you can only loan 6 in total. That is if they don't qualify as a youngster. To qualify as a youngster, you have to be under 21 and have spent 3 years in your club's academy.
That's the one caveat, isn't it? Because
so they can learn as many of those as they like abroad.
So
because FIFA want them to get
he
experience.
counts as a senior player as he goes to Strasbourg.
Yeah, he was signed from Strasbourg age 19 and then loaned back to them. And he therefore is one of the 6 international spots.
He can't go around freely like the mostly English produced under 21 players.
And in England, in the Premier League, you can only loan 2 players at any one time to another Premier League club and not to the same club. And therefore you can only loan 4 players in a season, but the other 2 have to come back in January, the first 2. But you can loan players down, of course.
But it is amazing, actually. There are a lot of players who have been involved in these 3 games, or a good number of players who have had loans already. But they're the ones that hasn't got them on the trip.
Yeah,
that was why I was making the point that these games took place while the first team were out of the country.
I've always found pre-season tours, which I've been on countless, of course, very, very important for developing players to make their mark, to make an influential mark on the manager during that, and very, very important. Not just your football, but being a good tourist as well, good football tourist as well.
It was interesting, the Tottenham game, Tottenham had played in the morning against Wycombe Wanderers at the training ground, and then were heading to the airport to go to the Far East. The substitutes for that game were under 21 players, but they were needed in case there were any injuries with the first team. So that game finished about 1:00, and then the substitutes hadn't been used. The under 21s who weren't going on the trip were shipped down to Woking to come on for the second half
against you.
And the under 18s had played the first half, and they were very good. I mean, Woking beat the under 18s, if you like, in the half, and managed to hold the under 21s, but with some difficulty. But again, you're looking, you think, why have you not gone on the tour? Why? And 29 players gone, and 1 or 2 probably left at home injured. So you're not in the top 30 really at your club, and yet they might be 20 years old. So I'm impressed, because I do feel that there is more practicality about it now, which there wasn't before.
And I think also the Championship has become a very important tactical ground for clubs down there to select the best loans, because every club that's come up has normally had several good loans, but then they need replacing.
Yeah.
When
You think that James McAtee was a big figure in the England winning the under-21s, who's been on loan back at Manchester City and has had some first-team football. He's got a hat-trick in one game. And but he would have been a top loan to get. And he went to Sheffield United, didn't he? I think, so. So it's every the thing is there's no one size fits all. It's every player has to be judged by both the club that's letting him out and the club that's receiving him, because you don't want to take. I've been involved in non-league football where we've had players from Premier League clubs, but they haven't been ready for men's football in the National League, you know.
No, exactly.
So that was a fault on our side.
The interesting one at the moment for me is Omari Hutchinson, who went on loan to Ipswich in the Championship, helped them get promoted, despite them getting relegated and pressed in the Premier League, had an outstanding under-21s Euros. And a lot of Premier League clubs are looking at him now. Will he make the move up or will he stay at Ipswich? Very interesting. Right. Martin Tyler's letter from the Gantry. And of course, you can read a lot of his letters as I put them up slowly. But surely they're all getting there on our substack.com site, also called The Joy of Football. Do have a look. But we'll be coming back to that in a moment. Right now, we are going on the Premier Preview Part 2, another 5 teams. And we start with Burnley. Championship runners-up, only on goal difference to Leeds, both clubs getting 100 points. They conceded just 16 goals in their 46 games, 14 fewer than second-best Leeds, who conceded 14 more, 30 goals, and 20 fewer than anyone else. But they only scored 69 goals, which was 26 fewer than Leeds, but more than everyone else. Top league scorers last season, and this will give you possibly an insight into what Burnley's problems will be this season. Midfielder Josh Brownhill, he scored 18. Striker Fleming, 12, and winger Anthony, 8. They got to the FA Cup 5th round with where they lost 3-0 away to Preston, and the Carabao 2nd round away to Wolves they lost. Departures include the big one, James Trafford to Manchester City goalkeeper for £27 million. And just a couple of interesting ones. They released John Joe Shelby, former England international, and Nathan Redmond, former Premier League winger, as free agents. Recruits include Max Weiss at €5 million, Germany under-20s goalkeeper from Karlsruhe. Is he really going to be their Premier League goalkeeper? Carl Walker, £5 million from Manchester City. Axel Twanzebe, free from Ipswich, where he got relegated. Yeah. Bashir Humphreys, who was on loan last season. Undisclosed fee, England under-21s defender from Chelsea. Quilenci Hartman, 11.75 million euros left back from Feyenoord. Wingers Loum Chuana, 15 million euros, France under-21s from Lazio. Marcus Edwards, 10 million euros from Sporting, who was on loan since January. Jadon Anthony, the winger, undisclosed fee from Bournemouth, on loan last season. Jacob Brun-Larsen, 4 million euros from Stuttgart. He was on loan a year ago for the season. And Zian Fleming, that second top scorer, £8.3 million forward from Millwall. So basically they bought their loans.
But I always think Burnley's a miracle. I mean, it's a town team. It's one of the clubs that somehow has kept it, and it's been a rocky road, because there was one season where they were one game away from being relegated from the Football League.
And my mate Ian Britton got the headed goal that kept them up. 5 foot 6 inches, and he headed a goal for a 2-0 victory.
They
kept them up.
Yeah, so they've had the lows as well as the highs, and so they have yo-yoed, of course, in the Premier League years. This is a really interesting, was they got up under Vincent Kompany playing swaggering football, didn't they? And wanted to keep that philosophy going in the Premier League. I mean, Scott Parker has got a knack for getting teams out of the Championship.
His third promotion.
Yeah, it's an extraordinary effort, really. And Scott, you wouldn't say, "Oh, you're going to be a manager that's going to get 3." When he finished playing, you wouldn't see that. But however it's worked, it has worked, and how they go about it now will be will be fascinating. But they are punching in terms of population, not in terms of history, but in terms of population. They are. It's an amazing achievement to be in the Premier League, and surviving would clearly be a target. A whole raft of new players. I mean, Kyle Walker clearly brings a sort of Jordan Henderson to Brentford feel to it, doesn't it? And
I think he could be. I understand. I mean, if they play three at the back, and he's on the right at the back three, that would be okay. But if he plays right back, I think he'll get found out now.
Well,
I just don't think he's got the pace.
He's the sort of person when he hears things like that, he'll be going, "I'll show you."
Yeah.
So anyway, Axel Tuanzebe was a Manchester United product, of course, and has had a spell at Villa as well. Hasn't quite probably justified. This is a great chance for him.
Yeah, because he hasn't proved his Premier League quality.
No, and for defenders, it takes some time. You know about Bashir Humphries. I've seen him play a couple of times. You've probably seen him a lot.
He's got quality.
Yeah,
he's got quality.
Marcus Edwards has been sort of, when he was at Sporting, say, well, why isn't he in English football? Was it Tottenham that he came through initially? Yeah. Jayden Anthony has had some good games in the Premier League for Bournemouth. So
I was surprised they let him go.
And Jakob Brun-Larsen was there before, so he brings some experience. So Ian Fleming was an interesting signing, and he did very well.
But he's only got 12 league goals. I mean, it's
but in a team that is winning matches by keeping clean sheets, really.
Yeah.
I tell you, get me one a game every 4 games, you're going to win it, aren't you?
Well, so, extraordinary. We'll see how the goalkeeper does, because I think Trafford was very influential last season.
But it's listen, not everybody. We can't judge everybody by the elite, super elite standards. These are Premier League. They've earned the right to be there, and they've done it in a really difficult, different way. Not many teams come up with those kind of. I mean, it was like listening to football results after going home from matches. Burnley kept another clean sheet, but this went on for week after week after week, and so well done, Scott Parker.
When you sit in the press box at Burnley, the low stand opposite you is so low that you see over the roof. And you see the rolling hills of the Lancashire countryside.
Yeah, the Gantry's up by the press box, isn't it? It's
unlike any other stadium.
You see the cricket ground where Jimmy Anderson used to come in and bowl. And I can remember when he was a real prospect, and that's a long time ago now, that I used to say, is he playing today? Because we should point the cameras, because you could see it. We did it once, and we got into real trouble with the Premier League because they thought... watching around the world, they thought we'd cut to a different sport. It wasn't quite shown that it was through that gap in the ground to the right of the press box, behind the end where the dressing rooms are, isn't it? So Burnley Cricket Club. Yeah. So be nice to be going back there again.
Right, Burnley staying up. Fingers crossed. Chelsea.
I'll leave that to you. Neil.
Fourth last season, returned to the Champions League, therefore, after 2 years of missing out, 15 points behind the champions. Club World Cup winners, UEFA Conference winners, FA Cup fourth round lost at Brighton, Carabao Cup fourth round lost at Newcastle. Departures include... the most expensive goalkeeper in the world, Kepa Arrizabalaga, for not the most expensive price, £5 million to Arsenal. Petrovic, who was signed for $15 million, £25 million to Bournemouth, business. Humphries, undisclosed fee to Burnley. Amagu, bought in January for St Etienne, sold to Strasbourg, business. Madueke, £48.5 million plus £3.5 million add-ons to Arsenal, bought for €35 million. Sancho, loan released back to Manchester United, had to pay £5 million in order not to buy him. Business. Well, his wages were too much business. Recruits include, that's our Manchester United supporting producer, Billy Reid, who is sad. Recruits include Mamadou Sarr, 19-year-old central defender, €14 million from Strasbourg, who's already been loaned back. Joral Hato, 19-year-old central defender from Ajax, for €40 million plus €5 million add-ons. Dario Asugo, 20-year-old defensive midfielder who broke Luis Figo's record as Sporting Club's youngest ever debutant for €21.5 million. Wingers Esteval Willian, €40 million plus €20 million add-ons from Palmeiras. Jamie Gittins, €56 million plus €4 million add-ons from Borussia Dortmund. Kendry Pires, €20 million from Independiente de Valle, already loaned to Strasbourg. Liam Delap, £30 million from Ipswich. And João Pedro, £60 million from Brighton.
If we do this next year, just say, bought a lot, sold some.
It's. I think Chelsea has become the trading outlet in football, and I don't think a lot of the deals are to do with football. I think they're to do with, can we make a profit out of this deal?
Yes. Yeah.
I mean, why do you buy someone in January and sell them in summer?
It's business.
It stinks. I'm sorry, it stinks.
It doesn't. I don't think it festers a sense of community spirit. I live near the training ground. You're a Chelsea fan. I don't find any Chelsea community spirit now in nearby Cobham that there used to be when the squad was more defined and the players were more. More of a tight-knit group simply because there were fewer of them.
I think there is a spirit because we have almost an entire team of former Manchester City academy there. Gittins joins Tosin, Lavia, Palmer. Of course, Sancho's left, but Delap. I mean, and of course,
the manager.
And the manager.
Yeah.
And we've got the former Brighton 11 as well with Sanchez, Cucurella, Pedro,
Caicedo,
and Ben Roberts in charge of the goalkeeper coaching at former Brighton and many
football directors. What's he called?
The football.
Wayne Stanley.
Yeah, Paul Winstanley. Yeah. Well, Joe Shields is the recruit who used to work at Manchester City. And Southampton. We've got quite a lot of Southampton as well. They're all bringing in people they know.
Well, that happens in all levels of football. But let's say you're going to be world champions for the next 4 years. So we're going to have to...
Yeah, that's a FIFA marketing ploy.
Well, it doesn't. Are you not going to take that? And
wear
the T-shirt?
This coming week... the week before the season starts, the Premier League season starts, Chelsea are holding an evening of trophy presentation. So the men's team will have the Club World Cup and the UEFA Conference, and the women's team will have the treble, the Super League, the FA Cup, and the League Cup.
But not the Champions League.
Not the Champions League, because it's Arsenal.
Just mentioning on behalf of our Arsenal supporters.
But I'm not going to go. It's £5 adults, £3 concessions, that's all. And I'm not going to go. And the reason
we'll have a whip round for you, Neil.
No, you I don't want to go. And the reason I don't want to go is I just think they'd have been better purposed taking that Club World Cup and wrapping it around Donald Trump's throat.
Well,
personal opinion. Not the opinion of the podcast necessarily, but maybe. Good season for Chelsea.
Winning the Champions League.
Does it need to be that good to be a good season?
I think they've got it now. The American owners, they've got it that Chelsea have to win. They've now reacted to that to get 2 trophies in a matter of certainly 3 or 4 weeks. I think they realise the effect it's had on the supporters group, and that they know that just trading is not enough.
I think a good season will be to compete for a major trophy. So that's either the Premier League or the Champions League, and to win a trophy again. Because I tell you, the UEFA Conference is a puny competition. I'm sorry, and we'll come on to Crystal Palace next. It's a puny competition in which the first Premier League quality team we played was in the final.
but the
Real
Club
Betis.
World Cup wasn't, and I
The
have
Club
to
World
say,
Cup wasn't, but everyone
the way
we
Chelsea,
played.
the way Chelsea played, if you've beaten the current holders of the Champions League, why it's not right for me to say you should be competing for the Champions League to win
Okay,
it.
but even in the Club World
beat
Cup,
them, you absolutely marmalised them.
yeah, even in the Club World Cup, PSG were the only team we played who had a Premier League budget. So that's how the Club World Cup is.
I'm objective. Neil isn't. Can we move on?
Right.
When you can be objective again.
I hope we win it all. I'll be slightly disgusted if we do, though. I can't help it. Crystal Palace, FA Cup winners, 12th in the Premier League, 53 points after the previous season. This is interesting. Previous season, 10th, 49 points. 2 places higher, 4 points fewer. FA Cup winners, their first major trophy.
That's their most points in the
Premier League, not in their history in the top flight. Under Steve Coppell, they came third and got 69 points in the old Division 1.
Yes, but in the Premier League, this is their highest total.
FA Cup winners, first major trophy, thus entering Europe for the first time. As we speak, it will be the UEFA Conference and not the Europa League due to the deadline passing when they had the same majority owners as Lyon, also in the Europa League, who finished in a higher place in Ligue 1. They've appealed against that, and by the time I think the appeal is August the 8th. Friday.
I don't think they're overconfident, but
no.
Anyway, they'll be in Europe, and they've won a trophy. That's the most important thing.
Carabao Cup, 5th round. They lost 3-2 at Arsenal, having won away to Aston Villa in the 4th round. Now, departures. Almost no one. Rob Holding released, and the manager clearly didn't like him. There was a big falling out. Yeah. He's now joined Colorado Rapids. Club captain Joel Ward, and friend of the joy of football, and midfielder Jeffrey Slupp, both free agents. Recruits include Borna Sosa, a Croatian international left-back, €3.5 million from Ajax.
Had a great World Cup for Croatia, and they played in 5 of the 7 games, I think. And I think it's a good signing. Tyreek Mitchell obviously has been left back for a long time without too much competition, so he's going to get some competition here. So I think that's a good sign. But I mentioned earlier about keeping holder players. At the moment,
they kept hold of Eze and they kept hold of Gay. Gay, he's out of contract in a year.
Yeah.
So if they could sell him for 50 million quid now, you'd think they would. But he doesn't want to go. He wants to run his contract down, it appears.
Which he's entitled to do, of course. But they, having had that, I mean, the joy of winning a trophy, it binds you together. That's for life. You are the ones that won the FA Cup.
They will have reunions for life.
They will.
I think that if they went in the Europa League, they'd probably get out of what's now the league stage into the knockouts, but they would struggle to win it. I think they can win the Europa Conference. I think they'll be one of the favourites. And if they are in that, as we expect, I think they can very seriously target that competition. And I'm not sure in the long run, although they might not get as much income from it as they would from doing well in the Europa League, I'm not sure it isn't a better competition for them to be in.
Yeah, they might play more matches, therefore get more money. That's the point you're making, really. But I think it's a shame it's come to that. It's taken a little bit of the gloss off, but it shouldn't. I was there for the FA Cup final and commentated on it, and they thoroughly deserved to win it. I had that bit of luck when Erling Haaland decided not to take the penalty. Who knows? Henderson might have saved that as well. But he did say afterwards that he knew where it was going to go, but he wouldn't have known if Haaland had been taking it.
Because he puts it somewhere different.
Yeah.
And he was lucky to be on the pitch, Henderson. But
well, that's another story. But they've won the cup.
I agreed with that. I agree with that decision. So he wasn't lucky. Right. A good season for Palace?
A good run in Europe. And I would say top 10 finish. I think that's where they're there or thereabouts. If they're going to be higher than that and get more than 53 points, I think it would take a bit of investment. I don't know what the situation, obviously now Mr. Texter's no longer part of it, how that's been covered for. I went to the academy training ground a couple of weeks ago, and it's a club with a real buzz about it because of the first team. That was just the academy ground. It's just across the road from the main training ground. But you could tell everybody's raring to go for the season.
I mean, they've lost 2 FA Cup finals, haven't they?
To Manchester United.
Yeah. They've only been in one other cup final, and that was the FA Cup final. I think a good season. Forget the Premier League. If they do the same thing in the Premier League and actually get to the final stages of the conference and possibly win it, that'd be a good season. It's their first time in Europe. Enjoy it.
But when they were good, they were very, very good, Crystal Palace. And when the talented attacking players that they've got really strutted their stuff. They're
critical that they keep Eze, isn't it?
I think so. But again, the finances dictate. But with the money I know the FA Cup doesn't make you super rich, but going into Europe will add to the revenue stream. They should be able to handle a little bit more in terms of the recruitment, I would have thought, and keep hold of the ones that.
And the fabulous right wing back Muniz.
Yeah. Daniel Muniz, yeah.
Absolutely critical of them. Right, Everton finished 13th with 48 points, which was an improvement on 15th with 40 points the season before. But even under David Moyes, in March and April, had only 1 win in 7. Yet finished up with 3 consecutive victories, including Fulham and Newcastle away. FA Cup 4th round, lost 2-0 at home to Bournemouth. Carabao Cup 3rd round, lost at home to Southampton on penalties. Departures include backup goalkeepers Asmir Begovic and João Virginia, defenders Ashley Young and Mason Holgate, all released. Midfielder Abdoulaye Doucouré and striker Dominic Calvert-Lewin, free agents at the end of contracts. Midfielder Oral Mangala, wingers Jack Harrison and Jesper Lindstrom, and striker Armando Broja, all loans ended. No one's gone for a fee. No money made. Recruits include Mark Travers, £4 million goalkeeper from Bournemouth to back up Pickford. Adam Asnur, €9 million, 19-year-old left-back from Bayern Munich, previously from the Barcelona Academy. Carlos Alcaraz, the midfielder who was loaned in last season, €15 million from Flamengo. Tiano Barry, a €31 million, 6 feet 5 inches, 22-year-old striker from Villarreal. You'll love commentating on him.
Yeah. I mean, he's one of the young ones around Europe who got into double figures with his goals. He will provide the aerial option that perhaps they'll lose with Calvert-Lewin, but Calvert-Lewin, I mean, his injury record of
terrible.
It's just extraordinary. I think one day maybe it will all come out, all the problems that he's had, you know. But you go to an Everton game, never really thinking, you're surprised if he's playing. Of course, the thing you haven't mentioned, Neil, is the new stadium.
The new stadium,
which is, I think, going to be a real fillip for Everton, but also, I guess, for the teams that come to play there as well. They'll want to put on a good show.
New stadia have traditionally, as we've shown before, been bad news for the host team.
Well, I think there's been so much going on about this, and I was at the farewell to Goodison game when they did beat Southampton, having lost to them, and they, as you mentioned, in the Carabao Cup earlier in the season. I do think that'll be the main talking point. But the other talking point is, and David Moyes has been very open about it. He'd been out in America in the summer series. We haven't got enough players, and so now they've got some. It seems the money. They look a good set of ownership. You know, the Free King Group look as though they're on the right track, that there is some harmony between the boardroom and the dressing room, which I don't think has been the case for a while. So late business is always risky because the teams that really know their targets have gone for them, either got them or not, much earlier on in the window. So Charlie Alcaraz did very well last season. He played well against Southampton, and again, a club that he had previous with as well in that last game at Goodison.
I think a good season for them is not getting sucked into the relegation battle.
Yeah,
it's got to be, because they haven't recruited and enough, and the striker needs to get some goals. That could actually improve them. Because they're always short of goals.
Beto probably punched above his weight in the end. Finally came good, got some very important goals. And Jai is an interesting player. He's a crowd pleaser. I know you're not his biggest fan, but
I like him. I like him. Yeah.
I see he scored the other day, so in the American tournament. So I think they've got, but that's basically an 11, and I think Doucouré always gave good value. You know, he was always
legs.
in the thick of things. Yeah, legs and willingness and attitude, and he had enough ability to make his mark and win games from time to time. Yeah. So I think that's but obviously he'd made up his mind, and busy time for Jordan Pickford. Yeah.
Okay. Finally, Fulham. Next episode, we'll do the other 10 clubs. Last season, 11th, 54 points after 13th the previous season with just 47 points. And before that, 10th, but only 52 points compared to 54. Indeed, when they came 7th in 2008-2009, they only got 53 points, a point fewer than 11th last season. Extraordinary. 54 was their most ever points in the top flight, ever. FA Cup, 6th round, lost 3-0 at home to Crystal Palace. That was a terrible game for them because they had a real opportunity to go on there. Carabao Cup, 3rd round, lost a penalty shootout, 16-15 away to Preston after a 1-1 draw. Departures include substitute goalkeeper Stephen Bender, striker Carlos Vinicius, Willian, all on frees, teenage forward Callum Osman, end of contract, who chose to move on a 4-year deal to Celtic.
Yeah, recommended by David Pleat, our friend of the Joy of Football.
They've lost one there. They've lost one there. No one again like Everton has gone for a fee. Recruitments, backup goalkeeper Benjamin Lecomte, £500,000 from Montpellier, but nobody to improve the side.
Well, certainly there are those in the under-21s that maybe are good enough to step up, and some of the better under-21 players, and I saw a very good group, were in Portugal. So maybe there will be some opportunities. I think they've kept hold of Marco Silva, haven't they? It was a surprise. I mean, they have kept hold of him. I don't know. I think, but there was a suggestion that he might be involved in the Tottenham shake-up, and maybe he would have gone if that had come his way. So I think it's the same voices, same players. It's sometimes a bit difficult. But they are, when they're good for them, they're very, very good. But losing at home to Crystal Palace was a bad day for them. But Palace, won it. They went and beat Aston Villa for 3-0 at Wembley and beat Man City in the final. So it wasn't perhaps quite as, at the time, I agree with you. But the way it panned out, it was probably a defeat.
It was a spanking as well. Good season for Fulham?
I guess about the same again. I mean, to push for Europe, they have been in Europe. Roy Hodgson took them into Europe and to a final as well. So,
I think a good season for them is to have a proper run in a cup competition and to steer clear of relegation battle. They need. Fulham have seen Crystal Palace win something. They need to win something.
Yeah. Well, I was at the 50th anniversary of their cup final at the end of the season in May, and. It was a joke at the time within their joke. Only Fulham, which is a lovely club, only Fulham could have a celebration dinner for losing the FA Cup final. But it was the best that they'd done. And obviously, when they got to the 6th round, just before then, people were thinking, well, maybe they'll be heading up to Wembley again. It's a special ground. It's a special place, and they are. Their values are there, the most welcoming of clubs. It's always a pleasure to cover their games, and we can't say to everybody, well, you've got to win a cup because there aren't enough cups. If you see what I mean.
Yeah. So that you've got to compete for it.
I think, to me, winning the cup is a wonderful thing for a club like Crystal Palace who've never done anything. It would be the same for Fulham, for other clubs that have come into that envelope, that have won things before. I think cementing Premier League futures is very, very important.
And in the specific case of Marco Silva, I think he just needs to make a step beyond what he's already achieved, because he always seems to finish up in the same place.
They always have the point where they look like they're going to go on, getting to the quarterfinal of the FA Cup, and being in the top half of the table. You think that, but
he's got to get to where Deserby's got to.
You find your own level in the end, don't you? And I think that's what we're talking about with a lot of the clubs that we've done in our preview of the first 10 names on the team sheet.
That is the first 10, the next 10 next week. Now, very quickly, we haven't got much time for this because we've gone on too long. It's feedback. I mentioned Substack.com earlier on where Martin, my writings go up. I wrote a piece on the rules of football. Laws of football, which has had a lot of comeback, and it's all stuff that we've talked about here over the months on the podcast. And I just wanted to bring up some of the feedback that we've had on this, because it's all things we've talked about. So I'd just like your response to some of these suggestions. This is Sevis, and he says, tactical fouls made on opposition when they're in their own half and have a chance of a quick counter-attack is a blight on the game, and too many possession-based teams indulge in this. Maybe advance the free kick 20 metres upfield and yellow card the offending player.
Well, the offending player gets yellow carded now. Yeah. They're very hot on that.
I think that's a really good idea. It would give more power to the referees, which...
You haven't read the last bit. Second defence, and the manager gets a red card.
I'm not for that, so I'm knocking that out. But I do think the idea of the extra punishment on a counter-attack at the referee's discretion is a great idea, actually.
I think there will be, you did this last week, you didn't do this week, we'll be into that. The yellow card.
Oh, that's all you television people.
No.
For us supporters, it'd be great.
The yellow card is sufficient. But if they do it again, it's another yellow card, not, maybe, it's not quite adds up to a red card, the two offences. I think those things should be, it has happened a couple of times. I mean, obviously, Declan Rice kicking the ball away for a second yellow.
I think if it's moved 20 yards forward, I think
we've tried all that with it.
I think it's a great idea.
It's not.
Service on with you.
Yeah.
Malo Delamonte, yellow card implementation is pathetic now. A player can always make those cynical fouls and game-altering fouls several times before a card. Hello, Fernandinho. But the ref will merrily dish out multiple yellows in succession for kicking the ball away.
Well, they don't do that now, because if you kick it, you can kick it a little way now. They go, it's not. The thing about the kicking the ball away, it's actually not that offence. It's delaying the restart.
Yeah.
So if the team want to restart quickly, then it should be a booking wherever the ball is kicked to if it's away from them. If they don't, then you haven't really delayed the restart. So.
I brought this up before. 5 yellow cards equals a suspension.
Yes.
Does 2 yellow cards have to equal a sending off? If the referee had the discretion, he could yellow card and not send off, but you've got nearer to your suspension if you had 2 yellow cards. So for kicking the ball away twice, you might not get sent off, but you still get 2 yellow cards.
You can't be doing things like that. If it's delaying a restart, you deserve to get sent off. I mean, you've got...
Declan Rice didn't deserve to get sent off, and he's an Arsenal player.
He did deserve to get sent off. No, he did. Because he knew what he was doing, and unfortunately... The referee knew what he was doing. He was delaying the restart, but
it wasn't a sending off offence. That was the problem.
No, but it was a second yellow card.
I know.
It is a sending off offence,
and that resulted in the law not being pursued after that, because people said it shouldn't be a sending off offence.
They're trying to bring in appealing against the second yellow card, or indeed the first yellow card. And those processes will go on forever and a day, because clubs will always appeal.
That's why...
If you appeal a yellow card and it's still... You should get another ban, at least another game
If you
ban.
had intelligent referees who could understand football...
If you had players who didn't cheat,
I agree with that.
Then it would be a lot easier.
I agree with that, but if you had intelligent referees who understand football, they could say 2 yellow cards, but not a sending off, carry on.
No.
But you're near a suspension.
They don't have the right to do that.
Well, they should
They
have.
don't have the right to do that. And then messing with the laws is one of the real things that the game has a problem with.
Well, that's
because we've got a group of people whose job it is to assess the laws, who take it upon themselves. That means they've got to change it. So every summer we have change. One law that is in, and I've seen games now, the games I've seen so far, the 8 second for goalkeepers.
But a corner, it just doesn't. It's
irrational.
You know why it's irrational.
The why it's a corner is that they don't want to give themselves situations of the mayhem of an indirect free kick,
which we all love. Which we all love.
Yeah, no, that's a very fair point. And
no,
I might actually find myself agreeing with you.
This is the most irrational law of all. This brought it absolute crap. Right, Pottermac Toon has sent a message. Start with abolishing PSR, as its sole purpose is clearly to maintain an uneven playing field to protect a handful of clubs, one of which is your beloved Chelsea. I agree. Would you get rid of PSR?
Well, I'd go further than that. I'd get rid of the home club keeping the gate money, because that was the actual legislation 40 odd years ago.
Early 1980s.
Created this imbalance. Before that, every Premier League, every First Division gate, every gate in the Football League was shared. So if you happen to have, like Bournemouth, 11,000 capacity, you still get a half share of going to Old Trafford.
I don't think it was half.
It was.
Was
it
it
half? Yeah. There might have been some expenses.
It was 40,
as well.
40,
but it was whatever the profit was from the game, you got half of it. And the moment that changed, then we had the rich getting richer, and the bigger clubs getting bigger, and there's two sides to this. The side from within the clubs is, my goodness, we've got a massive organisation here. If we are vulnerable to relegation, we as owners of the club, custodians of the club at the time, will be vilified for life, and the whole industry around this football club will be curbed, and people will lose their jobs. So that's from within. From outside, I believe the whole British mentality is we want a completely democratic league with everybody having the same chances of winning, which was what it was like before, until the maximum wage was abolished, when everybody got £20 a week in 1960, whether you're playing for Wolves, who were the champions, or playing for a team in the fourth division. That's all you could earn officially. And then suddenly, the bigger clubs could pay out bigger money, and that's gone on and on and on, from up to the famous £100 a week to now, whatever it is, $500,000 a week.
Well, I do think that financial fair play, which UEFA brought in, the big clubs wanted, because they were frightened.
They weren't protected.
They were frightened of too many Abramoviches coming in and funding their clubs. And the appalling thing is, Abramovich voted for it, or Chelsea voted for it, because he didn't want to take on Manchester City by then, and the state funds. And I think PSR in the Premier League is doing the same thing. It's the big clubs who can get around it and still spend money, as we're seeing this summer. The big six have spent a higher proportion, percentage-wise, of the total Premier League money than they have in any previous year.
It's the sense of entitlement for owners who come from not brought up in English football. They want to see business opportunities. They would really, I hesitate to say this, but I'll say it anyway. I do think that they wouldn't care a toss if many clubs went what looks like the Morecambe route, and therefore there were more fans to support the super clubs, because the question that I get asked a lot when I say I'm a working supporter, they go, well, you must have a Premier League club. Why the hell should I have to support a Premier League club?
Amen. Amen. Can I just also acknowledge the many messages that came out of the ChrisMD watchers who have now joined us, from people like Patrick Nolan, hey, from ChrisMD, but delighted this pod exists, from Adrian FC Bayern, here from ChrisMD video, great podcast, from Michael Van Haste, came from ChrisMD, didn't know about this podcast, but will be sticking around now, and from Jumka, this is my first video that I've decided to watch since watching Chris's video. Great to see Martin Tyler on YouTube and sharing his knowledge and points of view. We are very lucky. So Thank you all. Welcome. Stay.
Thank you.
And subscribe. Everybody else, that's it. From Martin and me.
See you next time.
Sorry, overran again. Next week, we'll probably overrun again. So sorry in advance. Patreon, subscribe, substack.com. You got anything to say?
2 guys in their 70s, and we've reached number 70 in our podcast. Wow.